So I'm going to do a sphere today, from beginning to end. I'll be able to post this afterwards. So I'm going to be using mechanical pencil. I can't remember which size lead that is, unfortunately. I believe that this may be a B. And this is definitely this is a ebony, I think, a 8B. I think. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want a kneaded eraser. That's what I'll be using. So the first thing I want to do is I want to put a circle on the page. Now you can, I did say that you could trace something, right? If you wanted to. And then just fill it. If you do trace something, just the first few marks should be very light. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a few circles here. One of those will be right? You might have to link a line to a line that maybe wasn't necessarily connected at first, but just make some general marking. So this is, for all intents and purposes, a gesture drawing of a sphere. And after you lay down your circle, you want to immediately maybe start thinking about your horizon line. And you also want to think about where your light source would be. I tend to use, let's do one over here. So if your light source is coming from this direction, and then we'll say that the highlight point is about here. So I'm mapping out my drawing. This is called mapping out, where you just make some light marks, kind of let yourself know where you're going. So that's going to be my highlight. Now for the shadow, you want to put an ellipse, right? And I'm using the same method, just sort of making some marks, many of them incorrect, some of them exactly where they need to be. So if your light source is hitting this sphere, right, so the light's going to bend, it's going to extend here, so it's going to bounce back for that reflective highlight rather, pardon me. So okay. So in that general area, we'll make adjustments as needed, okay? So I'm done with the mechanical pencil. You don't have to start with a mechanical pencil. You can start with any, I would suggest an H, at least an H. I usually like 2H because it's super light. And it kind of forces my hand to not press down too hard on it. So it's very light, wispy lines, if you will, with the 2H. So I'm going to start doing some shading, some gentle shading with this pencil. I don't think I have an A. This feels like it's probably a B. I'm going to use this 2B. I think this one might be a little bit more than a 2B. It might be like a maybe like a 4B or 5. 4B or something like that. This is a 2. So I'm just going to come in and just start making some light marks for the sphere, right? So where I have indicated edges of that shape, of that object. I'm just going to do some light graphite application around the edges here. So if you remember, if you refer back to your sphere diagram, okay, your highlights are here. All these are midtones. You've got your core shadow, you've got your cast shadow, and then you've got your reflected highlight, okay? So right now I'm just slightly laying down a slight foundation for our lines, rather, for these darker grays closer to the shadow, okay? And I typically paint like that too, dark to light. So now I'm just going to take a moment to fill in some of the shadow. And I am going to apply a little bit of pressure here so that the shadow starts to darken up a little bit and differentiate itself from the sphere. Okay. I'm also going to start from the horizon line and just put in a light set of marks for the surface. There's at a slightly different angle than the lines on the sphere. Okay. So now I'm gonna do a little bit of the sort of hatching, but not really. I'm just going in the opposite direction just to fill in any spaces that may not have really been darkened by the graphite. There's still some streaks in here. And another direction. Notice I haven't come anywhere near the highlight, and I'm leaving the area immediately around the highlight relatively untouched. Okay, so now I think I'm going to switch tools. I'm in here with this 4B. And I'm just going to redefine a little bit of the point where the sphere comes in to contact with the surface. You know that's going to be our darkest dark, is this core shadow here. Right. So still a very light amount of pressure. Okay. So now I'm going to switch over to my ebony. And I want to start applying a little more pressure. Switch directions. Now, when you're filling in the midtones, okay, remember you have to account for your reflective highlight. So there's some areas here that I'm just trying to smooth out and correct. A little more pressure here with the surface shadow here. I'm going to make another line. So the reflective highlight will be somewhere around here. So I think I made mine a little too dark. I'm gonna come in with my eraser, my kneaded eraser, to see if I can make a correction. I'm applying a little bit more pressure. Maybe start coming in some of these less dark areas. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this eraser, and I'm not going to rub, I'm just going to blot just to lift up some of the graphite. And then when you want to clean it, you can just pull it and knead it like you're kneading a little teeny piece of dough. Fold it in on itself. So I'm making my reflected highlight a little bit longer than it has to be, but I'm gonna fill it in. I just want it to be smooth. Okay. So I give myself a little bit more area to work with. Again, just kind of making some more lines here. Bring a little bit of the graphite in over that reflective highlight. Just turning my pencil a little bit to use another part of the graphite. Try to keep it even. Still applying not a whole lot more pressure, but just a little bit more. And what's happening is it's getting darker because of the buildup of layers of graphite. Don't forget the shadow. Now maybe come in a little bit closer to the highlight. My grip is really loose. So just increasing pressure as I go along. Just making sure these lines stay visible for my horizon line. So the dark areas, the shape is really kind of like a crescent. You can kind of see how, right? You see that crescent? And they all follow, when I say all, I mean all the different variations of gray on your midtones. They all follow a similar shape. So I'm gonna push, this is the hardest stuff, the most amount of pressure, I suppose I should say, that I've put, that I've used rather for this drawing. All right, so let's see what we got. It's not too bad. I could keep working on it, but I think this is enough for now. It's a good idea to get into the habit of putting a date on your drawings, as well as what the drawing is. So this is going to be a value study. And if you wanted to, you could kind of come in here if you wanted to clean up some of these areas. I don't have a problem with it though. I mean, it's not perfect circle, but I'm all right with that. Every time I make a line, I gotta adjust the shading a little bit. Every mark affects the entire piece. Okay. So, sphere. A value study. What's today? Today is the 18th, I believe. And if you want to sign it, sign it. Okay. So there you have it. Really quick, but you get the idea. All right. And that's just with using your limited tools, mechanical pencil, right? That I showed you. A 2B. This actually might be a water soluble graphite pencil, this one right here. I can't remember off the top of my head, but then also the ebony. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. See ya.